Hello and welcome to today's episode of Building for Peace with Hannah Jewell. Today we're here with Marjolaine Koch. She's a dear friend of mine who I've known in many capacities. She's got a diverse array of backgrounds, working with Sufism, Indigenous peoples, and in active peace building. And I'd like to introduce her now. Marjolaine, welcome to the podcast. Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah. So where can I start? From a professional background, I would say I started studying public policy with a focus on human rights, and this brought me into international development as well. This is what I studied for years, and with a focus on social diversity and human rights issues. And my passion is also bridging that with environmental issues. So I was able to do that also at some point in my work. And the question that drives me is about change. How can we really contribute to deep-rooted and sustainable change? And I'm trying to play a part in that. Even if it's little. So it's just a question that I have in my mind that always drives things that I do, and how I look at things, and looking at the root causes of problems, and having a sense of care for this world as well. So it kind of brought me into places and meeting people, and got me into. I made a long journey in terms of work as well, so sometimes when I look back I'm like, okay, this now makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I know you've traveled all over the world with your work, and you work with many different companies and corporations on peace building strategies. Some of my favorite stories that we've talked about are the times when you've had a chance to live with Indigenous peoples and really understand where they're coming from. Like you said, what is their perspective, their needs, and the root cause of a particular issue. Could you share with us a little bit about your journey into working with the Indigenous people?
I've always been drawn to nature and my connection to nature, so since I was very little, and I didn't really get answers in this westernized world. My family is I come from a family that is very connected to nature and the woods, and collecting medicinal herbs and so on, so I always had that in me, but I always had this question, I always wanted to learn more and explore, and I guess also in a way find parts of myself, and so I always felt connected to different cultures that really still live in a certain wisdom. And at some point in my life I made a journey to South America, and I ended up in the Amazon, and this was not really planned actually. It just it was a calling in myself. I can recognize it now, but I just stayed there for a bit, and a lot of things opened for me there, and I was just amazed by the knowledge that the family that I was with hold, and how they are helping other people with that, and I really strengthened my own personal relationship with nature and with the forest, and I don't know, from there it became so strong that I wanted to do something and support the protection of the beauty that we have here on earth, and also support those that are really trying to protect these areas, and also want to uphold certain principles of living. And yeah, I don't know, this I was studying as well, doing my master's, and this brought me in touch with an organization that works with indigenous peoples and are working on basically how I'd say, like connecting their like bringing forward their like working with them and basically honoring the indigenous principles of protecting the land and connecting it to the international system, so the international law. So I was able to work with them and for a bit and work on a project to really integrate or help a community integrate indigenous principles of protecting the land into international law, and then also use that as a tool to advocate for protecting the land in a way that is honoring indigenous vision. So more from a sacred point of view as well. So not only a biological or environmental point of view. So more of a holistic point of view of protecting the land. And yeah, with a background in human rights as well, I also ended up in southern Mexico. So I was living there for a bit, working for a human rights organization. And yeah, that is a very long story on why things are happening there, unfortunately. But so in the human rights organization is helping different communities there, protecting their rights, because there are a lot of violations. I don't want to go into that too much, but and also around land, so land rights and also human rights. And so sometimes we had to go into the community to stay there for a bit and observe what was happening, and it's also a form of protection for these communities there. And yeah, I learned a lot being there. It's they encounter so much challenges, and despite all of those challenges, they still have a lot of faith and choose the path of peace constantly, and not only for themselves and for their own communities, but also for the world, and to be in solidarity with other people around the world that are facing similar issues. So I really saw a lot of strength and resilience, and I think I learned a lot from that. It's very I feel very privileged to have been there, and yeah.
Yeah. We've talked at length about this connection that you've brought up between environment and protection and the sacred and peace. And I recall you were talking about your time with the Maya and the people in Mexico and the simplicity of life and how vital that is to the sense of the sacred and to peace. Can you elaborate on that a little bit and maybe share a specific instance or story that kind of brought that alive for you?
One story that I always remember is personal, but I was staying in a community one time, and it was very basic. So the only thing I had was my hammock and a roof over my head, and some beans we got on the way for cooking, and we were staying there. So these people also live very simply on the land. They are farmers, and they are quite busy during the day, being with the land and collecting firewood and those type of things. And so we also didn't have running water. So if we would need that, we would have to walk down to the river, do all the washing there, and like the river was kind of like central to the community. And you have to think about like, okay, when are we gonna get the water and bring it up? It's very heavy, and you don't bring that up like 5 times a day. You have to think about it and be very careful about using it. You go down and wash yourself there. You have to make sure you use products that are completely nature friendly, so it's not chemical. You know, so there's a lot of things to think about because you're in the river and this river is going to other places as well. So you wanna, you drink from it and you wash from it, and it's just like a very simple thing that we kind of forgot here because everything comes from the tap, and there it's really you are with, you know, you're living with, you know, the water is coming from the river, right? So it's very it really made me realize like how important it is that we have to treat it with respect, and you have to think about not only yourself but everybody else, exactly.
We're all sharing the river together.
Yeah, and don't overuse it, just use a little bit. When you're in that when you're living that way, you have to be you become, I would say, more conscious about about everything around you. So that was, for me, was also an eye-opener. I mean, we have such a luxury here that everything is being provided to us, but we also lose that connection with the source where everything is coming from, and then you also lose that relationship. And I think that having a relationship is so key to everything, because you separate yourself from a part of life that is part of you, whether that is, you know, for example, eating animals or using the water. You know, we go to the store and we get the water from the tap, but actually, you know, it's coming from somewhere. So can we really make and build a relationship with where it's coming from? So building a relationship with the water and the source of the water, and a relationship with the animals, and and I think if you do that, it's natural that you treat it with respect, I would say. So I think it's so easy to forget about that as we live right now, and I think it's one of the keys to kind of come back to being more conscious about what we are actually doing.
Yeah, that sense of relationship is so important. I'm so thankful you brought it forward. You know, I am grateful every day that water comes from my tap and that I can make a hot bath, and I feel like a queen and a princess because of this. But there is actually nothing more invigorating than being with the river itself. And that relationship is restorative in a way that we just can't imagine until we really feel it. And water is the center of human life, isn't it? Can you tell us a little bit about how this profound respect of the relationship of the human with nature has made its way into international law and is working for the protection of the people? Can you give us a specific example?
Yeah, of course there are different environmental laws and so on. But that is from a certain perspective. And it hardly holds, or actually not hold, it doesn't really hold, it's not strong enough to hold those that are violating environmental rights accountable. So, and that's the problem that we have right now. So the private sector, for example, coming in an area where, you know, they're allowed also sometimes to violate these laws for specific reasons, because it brings profit to a country, you know, things like that. So I would say, there are some laws, but it's not enough, and that's why there's also a whole movement now around rights of nature and Stop Ecocide that I've also been involved in for a while. That is really saying, hey, you know, if you are damaging nature in such a way, you know, it's not allowed. We should really prevent this, and those entities or perpetrators, they should be held accountable, and it should be actually set in international law. Yeah. So that's the Stop Ecocide is really about that as well. But then, of course, there are other initiatives that are, but they're not, I would say, there are different ways of kind of going into, the protection of land, and it's not obliged for countries to abide by certain laws. For example, there is in UNESCO there's the intangible heritage. So if a space is protected under the intangible heritage, which could be a sacred natural site, for instance, you know, they can say, okay, we will protect it under this, but it's not enforced on it. So you can always violate it if you want. It's not really a good thing, but so there are initiatives, and also the organization I was working with before, they have been working in that way, like finding alleyways to really bring in that holistic perspective. So the sacred natural sites, the protection of sacred natural sites, recognizing that certain areas are biodiversity hotspots, that there is a certain function of that area that is beyond our human understanding. And so that has also been taken up by the IUCN and by other organizations, and so in that sense there is, you know, a framework and jurisprudence to protect certain areas, but the accountability aspect is still quite difficult, and forcing companies, for example, to really respect these laws and so on.
Exactly. We've talked some about the complex nature of peace building, and when I speak with you, I really am impressed how peace building is definitely not just a fluffy idea. This is looking at what is the needs of this corporation, this company, this entity, these people who are living on the land, and how can we find a way for them to communicate with each other and not bring in judgment or this or that, but just like, these are your stated needs and these are yours, and we've got to find a meeting point here.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes so much inner resilience and fortitude, and really a freedom from ideas of right and wrong, but just how can we work with this issue so that people are benefiting. Then maybe these kinds of structures have to be in place for the sacred to sort of drip in and flow in to how we meet together. You know, there's this prophecy about the condor eagle that comes from South America, and the people who are working in a ceremonial way close to the land are known as the condors, right? And then the Western mind in the developed world up in Europe and America, and is sort of like the eagle. And when the eagle and the condor meet, what actually happens is we have the heart and that deep wisdom of how to live with nature and structure, and the way structure can move through. And structure's been used in terrible ways, and has allowed companies to violate, and many people are living in terrible conditions in the developed world and all over the world. But those structures can be used in a positive way once the heart is met there. And I really see the work that you do as part of that. Do you want to elaborate on that in any way at all?
I mean, what you're saying, I think I would also say this may be connecting the heart and the mind. And I think we have an overemphasis on the mind, especially in our Western world, or in the UK, in the Netherlands and so on. There's a lot of emphasis and a lot of it's put on a pedestal, you know, to be intelligent, to be, yeah, all kinds of things coming from, and that's all good, you know, we need that. But if it's like everything, if something goes too much, it loses its balance. So yeah, having that connection to the heart, and actively connecting the heart and the mind, and embodying that, this is really important. So yeah, in some of the work that I do is I facilitate dialogue processes, for instance. So it's also kind of guiding groups to not go in a linear way, to say, okay, now we have this problem, and then we're going to think about the solution now. This is not working, because then you're building solutions, you're thinking about the problem in the same way as you came into the room, right? Mm-hmm. So allowing that to drop in a way, to kind of undo certain things, which is not easy, because, you know, not many people are used to that. To kind of let things go, and start. For example, we have different exercises also to help people, but to go into that dreaming state, for instance, like really, what do you really, if you can think about anything right now, what would you really envision? And it doesn't have to be tangible. Think about it big, you know, and to bring that vision back, to really bring, connecting people in the space, sharing stories. It's like, you know, opening the heart a little bit more. Maybe we don't call it like that, or we don't call it, we don't explicitly say it like that, but, you know, there are all kinds of exercises to kind of open things before you go into, okay, what's next, you know? It's kind of like taking people through a journey, which is very practical in a way, because there are different exercises to do, but step by step, going into, okay, then what is important now for the next period. Because otherwise we will be talking about the same, about how you think about solutions, and it's coming from the same mindset. That's not working, and we see it's not working. So, you know, it's
Yeah, as you're talking, my heart is really feeling that and coming alive, and just tuning into the heart as we attempt to negotiate the challenges that we have as a human collective culture right now. And I love the way you're speaking about it in such a grounded way. This has been a huge part of your journey, and many people's journey, is opening into spiritual dimensions and feeling like that's so massively important and huge, but then finding a way to really ground that. And you've done such an exemplary job in your life of really bringing that grounding in. What are ways that you, living in the West and doing this sort of consultancy and diplomacy, actually ground that sense of the sacred and the heart into your daily life and your work routine? I mean, it's not easy when your work is on a laptop and via Zoom conferences and in these kinds of environments, right?
Yeah. It's a challenge for me all the time. But like this, I get into my head, you know, I get into the computer and in my head, literally. So I have to step out a lot But I feel like, okay, now this is tipping me over, so I go into nature, have a walk. I need to use my body to really ground, because otherwise I feel I'm really flying up here, and it doesn't make me happy. My soul doesn't get happy from that, and so it's calling me to say, hello, what are you doing? Calling me back in a way. But yeah, over the years I've been through a whole journey, but I have a daily practice now, or I have a path and I practice. So I start in the morning with that, starting the day. So before starting the day, I always have to remember, okay, where did I come from? and honoring that through prayer and some form of meditation. So it's important to kind of like anchor that and then start the day from there. And during the day you have to sometimes keep reminding yourself. when I go into meetings as well. It's like, yeah, it's beyond you as a person as well. You want to make, I want to make sure that things that are being done and said are are in the right way, and you're not offending anybody. And if something happens that makes me uncomfortable, I will reflect on it and think about, okay, what is this? Yeah, why am I upset? Like really upset, and then I can let it go. And these are very little things, but it helps me. It helps me really to walk, and also I have always a part in the year which is on a bigger scale where I reflect on, okay, what am I doing, and does it still make sense, and is there another direction perhaps that I need to go into? Am I still? I said it the other day as well to someone, like, am I still like an enjoyable person? Because you can be successful in your work, but if I get super stressed and corporate, it's like, what's joy of this? I don't. No. So am I enjoyable? Like, am I happy in this life? Like, this the questions I reflect in the year, around the winter, springtime, and it's like, okay, and then starting new. So in like going with the cycles, I also like to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
These are little, but they're actually really huge. Attuning to the cyclic nature of the seasons, attuning to yourself throughout the day, starting the day with prayer and meditation, being in your body. I mean, these are huge. If we could all do just that, then maybe our relationships would change on international and corporate level, and like a family and personal level. It's really got to be both, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also I really like this slowing down, because I used to live in London, and everybody's like running, and I went along with that. I was like running to the station and running here and there, and it's like, okay, you go crazy at some point, So it's like, okay, no, it's not working. And why am I, where am I running to? What's the point? Like, this life is gonna be over. So, what did I do? Run from place to place? No, it doesn't make sense. Okay, so I purposely slow down. And even when I'm walking with friends sometimes, okay, I can walk in a fast pace, but I say, hey, wait. I just don't want to walk fast, Sometimes it's nice to literally walk slow. When everybody around you is like walking fast, it's like, no, I'm slowing down. And realizing, like, there's more to this world than going into the future all the time with your mind, like, oh, I need to do this and there and there and there, and you're like there already. It's like, wait a minute, I have to enjoy this moment, So yeah, that's what often I call myself back to the moment. Okay, wait, I am here to enjoy as well. So that's, have a little break, or just stare outside and be, enjoying the nature or the sunshine, and just very little things, but it just opens things up in your day.
It opens a moment of space.
Yeah.
I know yesterday, when we went out and we were having coffee and walking the puppy, and then just to pause and lay on the earth, lay on the grass next to the beautiful flowers, and let the body sink. This was so restorative, and I was like, oh, I love the way Marjolaine is just like, oh, let's pause for a minute. Thank you for reminding me of that feeling. We talked a little bit about the north-south and the Condor Eagle, but there's also a meeting of East and West, and this has been going on for some time. It really kind of came to the forefront in the 1960s when we had a lot of Westerners going over to India. And this meeting is like seasoning and deepening and getting richer and growing roots. And the East-West, North-South confluence is a part of my own life and path, working with both Indigenous and Sufi paths, and being a woman from America. And I know that it is also the same with you. So we share that Sufi connection. That's how you and I first met in my Sufi whirling group back like 10 years ago.
Mhm.
So can you share with us a little bit about how ecology, a sense of the sacred, and the heart come together in Sufism in your life? I know we've talked about it loads, and your sense of the heart-mind really is influenced by that. I feel like you could talk for years on this topic. You can maybe share a tiny bit with us.
Yeah, that's a big topic.
Just a piece.
No, I'm just thinking like, okay, where to go here. I mean, I think it's quite in a way simple. That if you realize, we are from source, we come from source, and we come back to source. Source. I'm a believer, so yeah. If source is the creator of everything, everything is sacred, right? So, and I feel like nature is a manifestation of that. It's like there are a lot of gifts in nature, and it's a very pure place to be. Pure energy is there. You go into a forest, everybody would feel like, so nice to be here, right? Yeah. So and that's a gift, and yeah. If you feel that in a way, then it's so natural to build that relation, to see the sacred in other things, to see the beauty seeing the beauty in a flower, and smelling the flowers, like you saw me doing that. I'm like going in the garden, like I really love that. It's just because it just brings you a moment like, wow, yeah, amazing that there's such a beautiful smell coming from the flowers. And it's a blessing, right? It's so like only nature can do that, but nature has its source, right? So I don't know, through that you can see there's the beauty is everywhere, and we are part of that, and then it's so natural to take care of it, right? So yeah.
Beauty is such an integral part of the living Sufism that I practice, and the rose is like one of the key metaphors in Sufism. We have these beautiful roses from the garden next to us with the dew on them, which have a wonderful smell. And in this way, for me, the spiritual practice of ecology, the way it comes together with Sufism, is not, like you said, a huge theoretical discussion, though it could be. It's got like 8 centuries of writing on it. But it comes down to the beautiful and the good, and how do we live that is first, how do we connect to it? And I find when I can appreciate a rose, I can appreciate a person. And all sense of judgment can melt away, and I could see the rose of their heart, and how we're each on a journey, and we have all these meeting points. Is there anything else you would like to share with us from the Sufi path? It's a feeling, and we're sharing the feeling now. It's the feeling of love, of source, as you said, which we can call also God and Allah, imbuing the earth, imbuing our bodies made of earth. It's hard to speak about a feeling.
Yeah, I mean, the remembrance is something that comes up, like it's a path of remembrance, and there are many paths of remembrance. So it's for me personally, Islam, and in that Sufi way, it's a very deep path. Yeah, there's so much depth. You can read something and you learn something from it, and then another day there's another layer, right? Yeah. It's like doing the zikr, and doing the names, remembering through the mantra. I would call it mantra because most people know what mantra is. It's like every time something else comes from that, it's so beautiful. So it's an endless, I feel like it's an endless journey. But yeah, the remembrance is very, it's beautiful. It's, yeah, we remember, the source and that which is in us. In the same time, it also helps you, or it helps me to, it's like as we say, like a polishing. So you're also cleaning yourself. So being in that remembrance is so beautiful and a blessing. But at the same time, it helps to look at the uncomfortable things inside you, the shadow parts, or the ego parts, and kind of polish that and kind of set it straight. It's like, no, go that direction, and you have to repeat it all the time until it kind of slowly moves into that direction. And that we talked about it the other day. It's like, okay, maybe it's not necessarily so important, that spiritual part, but how to become like a human. What does it mean to be human, Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would say that's a beautiful path to kind of slowly become like a true human. Mm-hmm. And then what is a true human? But I would say, being in that remembrance ideally all of the time, but mm-hmm. Most of the time,
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, it's such a beautiful way of expressing, and it's foundational, I think, to all indigenous-based paths. Sufism is so ancient. We could say it is indigenous in a way, and then it grew up within Islam into a sort of refinement. I'm just soaking in the love of remembrance now that we've brought it to the forefront, and then the words sort of disappear, because in that state of connection, love becomes the most important thing. And to really love each other, love nature. This is missing from the mindset of productivity and the mindset of linearity. And to rise through that, where it can be a structure, but have the higher level of the love, which just doesn't mean better, it's just a different vibration, a more subtle, a more refined vibration, the vibrations of beauty and love. When we look from those perspectives, like you said in the beginning, then we're not entering with where the problem is, but we're entering from a different place where a solution can manifest. What about when we get to the place where it's not just about solving problems, but about creating mm-hmm. the beautiful and the good, and mm-hmm. envisioning the power of the next steps? Mm-hmm. What is your vision for like a really abundant, beautiful world and a way of human being?
Mm. I have a very idealistic side, so
bring it on, as big as you want to think.
In my ideal world, I think we would, I had moments in my life where I was really able to feel, I would say like heaven on earth, you're still in the same place, you're still in the same spot, but all of a sudden, like, some veils went, right? And I was like, whoa, this is so immensely beautiful. I didn't realize this, And I was, if we all are able to be in that, come to that state, we can meet each other with a very open heart, be very supportive. We are realizing we are, part of one, and there's no competition. There's just, seeing the beauty in each other, the diversity of everything. Everybody's has their own unique expressions, and we can be so celebrating of that, and also celebrating of all the biodiversity that we have. recognizing the knowledge and the wisdom of not only the humans but also other forms of life. And of course many cultures have talked about that. We can literally connect to that and bring that into our lives more actively, and not only collaborate on a human level but collaborate on an interspecies level. And that would be so amazing to have that, to really open that more. Yeah.
Now I'm envisioning collaboration on an interspecies level, and reminded of the paintings and the images of priestesses with lions next to them, and the lion will lay with the lamb is a verse from the Christian tradition in their Bible, and wondering what that would look like on a global scale with all of us participating. I cannot wait to see it happen. So this is a prayer to carry for my grandchildren now. Yeah. Marjolaine, if people wanted to be in contact with you, just to, for any reason, to share their stories, to talk about any of the work that you do, or to connect with you on the Sufi path, and how might they get in touch with you? What is the best way that you like to be contacted?
I have, I'm not very active on social media, and I still use Facebook, but that's the only thing really. I'm Marjolein Helena is my name on Facebook, so that's a way of connecting. Another way of connecting would be maybe through my work, which is a company I'm a partner with, and we are a collective of people working in dialogue and all kinds of dialogue research and so on. So that's called perspectivity.org. So depending on
what type of connection you'd like.
Yeah.
Is there any last thing you would like to share with us that really wants to come from your heart on any topic?
No, I think it has been beautiful conversation, and I didn't know what would come out, and I didn't prepare anything. You asked me to come here, and thank you so much for the invitation and for asking questions and having this conversation. And it's always beautiful that when two people or more people are talking, like things start to weave together, and you're always stronger with more people, and it's really lovely to see the synergy that starts to arise from that.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole reason for this podcast. Just to forge connections, and we're all doing it right now. There's a lot of podcasts, there's a lot of conversations happening, and every single one of them is important. Yeah, I'm so thankful for your time here today, to feel the love of Spirit moving in this room with us, and to share this moment with you. It's been a joy.
Thank you.
So thank you everybody for joining us. If you would like to be featured on a podcast or comment and talk about any of the things that we've been discussing, please do reach out. jewelofpeace.com is the website that hosts these podcasts and my other work, and I would be delighted to hear from you. Have a most blessed day.